Welcome to ServiceDesk Plus Masterclass 2023. We are on season 2, and this is the third episode of this season. I'm Haripriya, a product expert with ServiceDesk Plus, and I've been with this application for more than half a decade, handling trainings and implementations for all our customers across the globe. And in this session, we are going to discuss on how to build life cycles and workflows, which will help to enforce a process for all the technicians in your organization. And it is also going to help you structure the flow of each and every incident, service, or change request that you handle in your organization. So in today's agenda, we are going to discuss about life cycles and workflows that can be built for request management, change management, release management, and in addition to that, we are also going to discuss about Zia and its workflow. So to help with our session here, I am taking an imaginary organization, goes by the name Zilker. Zilker is a rapidly developing telecommunications company, and Zilker has been using another ticketing system until recently they decided to purchase ServiceDesk Plus and start to go with ServiceDesk Plus configurations. So until they got ServiceDesk Plus and until they started to analyze the workflows present in ServiceDesk Plus, the common challenges that they faced in their environment is that there was no definite process followed by any technician in this organization. So, say for example, if a laptop is broken, one technician would just think that replacing the laptop will quickly solve the ticket, and that's all what he needed. Whereas another technician will at least try a few steps, will try to troubleshoot and fix the laptop. Whereas another technician might not even handle this request and he might assign it to a different team. So proper flow or proper process is not being followed by any technicians over here. When it comes to their change management, sometimes they perform the change beforehand and then they start documenting it in the application. Sometimes they don't even document it. Sometimes they just get the enough approvals. But when it comes to implementation and review of the change, those information are not documented, leading to partial completion of the change. And what happens is that immediately when the organization noticed this, the organization is quite aware that each and every technician has got their own skill set, they work in their own pace, but they are trying to contribute towards the growth of the organization. But when it comes to an audit, there is a lot of confusion causing because of a lack of process. Some changes are not completed, some tickets are not solved in the right way they need to be solved. So there is no proper data or no proper understanding on how these tickets were dealt with, where they dealt with in a common process fashion, or whether there was any confusion or any process violation involved. So having all these challenges in their mind is when they decided to move to ServiceDesk Plus, and with the help of workflows that they learned that they can use in ServiceDesk Plus, they are going to find out a remarkable difference in how all the technicians will start to operate in uniformity. So starting with, we are going to discuss about request management and lifecycle building in request management. So for this, I have already prepared a life cycle for our demonstration purpose today. And this is for a very common requirement that mostly comes to us. It's about a laptop that is either faulty or a laptop that needs to be replaced. So as I mentioned earlier, in the earlier scenarios when the technicians had to face such a request, some technicians try to resolve it, whereas some technicians try to get the laptop replaced straight away so that they can skip all these troubleshooting steps. But what happens in the long run? Many laptops are simply getting disposed in case where they could have been easily fixed. Example, it could be a simple fan replacement, but instead of that, the laptop is no longer available. And in other way, there are more and more procurement happening because more and more replacement is happening. And this is taking a huge toll on the financial aspects of the organization. That is our Zilker. Now, I have got this workflow designed in such a way that only this flow needs to be mandatorily followed by all the technicians. And let us take a quick look on how this is being done. So as soon as a request is created, we have the start point where a request is created. It comes to the open status. Once it comes to the open status, I'm providing three scenarios. Either the technician can troubleshoot it, get it fixed, and resolve the ticket. Or if it cannot be fixed, then the technician can contact the vendor. And once the vendor tries to service the request, they can get it fixed and mark it as asset serviced and finally get the request resolved. In the worst case scenario where the technician cannot fix the issue, neither the vendor services as well, then I can proceed to replace this laptop. And when I'm proceeding to replace this laptop, I will just not consider to straight away replace it. I want it to go through an approval process where I send necessary approvals to the users, the affected users, reporting manager, the department head, etc. And if in some cases, if it gets denied, I will straight away have this ticket cancelled, and this cancellation is going to be marked as the end of this ticket. Whereas if I get the necessary approvals, then I have this assigned to a technician belonging to the purchase team, and the purchase technician starts working on it. So again here, I would like to enforce the flow in which the technician should work if a new purchase request is received. The technician, while starting their work, he needs to check if the asset is in stock or if it is out of stock. If the asset is in stock, then he can simply provision the asset and then have the ticket closed. Whereas if the asset is out of stock, then he goes ahead and raises a new purchase order. And once the purchase order items are received, then the asset provisioned is marked and finally the ticket is closed. So now you can imagine, when compared to the earlier process that they had, how much of a difference this particular life cycle is going to help Zilker with, right? So now I just showed you how this life cycle is being configured. Next, what I've done is I have associated this life cycle to two templates. One is an incident template and the other one is a service request template. So yes, a request life cycle can be associated not just with an incident, but also with a service request template, and it can be executed based on the template that we choose to create a new request. Now that I have assigned this particular life cycle to IT asset issue, let us quickly see how this can be done. So for this, I'm going to go to a user login. So I'm logged in as a user and I go to request tab, raise a new request from here. So click new and look for IT asset issue under my incident template. I see it over here. Now I fill in the necessary details. So the asset to report, it's my laptop, and the preferred contact time, I would say somewhere between 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I get a notification that the IT team will be reaching me at their selected time slot. So just to recap, this was already explained in the previous masterclass series, where with the help of field informed rules, I was able to have condition-based actions and alerts done inside the template. Next, I choose the issue type. So I say that my laptop is faulty and my laptop model is already being chosen. So I click to add this particular request. So now that the request has been added, it's been created as 67. I go back to my technician login and let me have a look into it. So yes, I've got 67, the ticket ID that has been created. And as soon as I come from a technician login, I can see three kinds of transitions that is displayed here. So again, to map you with what I have already configured under my request lifecycle, I've got three transitions here. My first transition is from the open status. I can either go to issue fixed. Second transition is if vendor service is required. And the third transition is to proceed to replace it. And this is what we are going to exactly look at. Okay, so I've got these three transitions, and if I directly try to click issue fixed, it will automatically resolve my issue. But say, for example, this is not going to fix my issue, and I would like to get vendor service here. So I click on vendor service required, and as soon as I click on it, it says that the notes field is mandatory. Now, if you're wondering how was I able to mandate this particular notes field, then yes, I was able to do it from under my request lifecycle. So each and every transition that I have here comes with three scenarios. So this is vendor service required. I just clicked on it, and on the right side, you can see the three events: before, during, after. So what are the validations I need to perform before I move from one status to the other? What are the operations that I need to perform at the time of moving from one status to the other? And what are the notifications or triggers that needs to be executed after I move from one status to the other? These are the three information that can be captured using request lifecycle. So here, during this transition, I have mandated the notes field. So I need to add a note as why am I moving this to vendor service, service assistance required? Was I not able to fix this issue on my own? So all those details can be captured. It is not just the note that can be captured as or made mandatory. You have these many types of fields which you can do, which you can mandate, and this also includes your additional fields over here. So now, since my note is mandated, I give the necessary information, something like I am able to fix the laptop and we will get in touch with the vendor. So as soon as I do this, I'm just showing this note to the requester as well, and then I click next. So I can also add this note. I just got this note added over here. Now, as soon as I did this, it moved on to the status on hold. So yes, from open to on hold is what I have created my state transition. So from open, I go to on hold as soon as I choose this transition, vendor service required. Now from on hold, what are the other options that I have? I see a transition going from on hold to resolved. That is when the vendor services the asset, it's successfully fixed, and I mark it as asset serviced. The other transition that I see here is proceeding to replace, which means that even if my vendor is not able to get it fixed, then I will not be able to do anything more with this laptop. And the last resort is for me to proceed to replace. And while proceeding to replace, I see that it goes back to the open status. So say for here, I was not able to get it fixed. So I'm going to click proceed to replace, and this status should move from on hold to open. Yes. So again, we have come back to open statuses with the three transitions that we had earlier. But this time, since I have already gone through the second transition of involving the vendor and the issue was still not fixed, I would like to initiate an ad hoc request and get the immediate approval from the user's line manager. So for that, I just click on initiate ad hoc request. And you might be wondering, as soon as I do this, I need to send the approvals manually, right? Especially when it comes to incident request. So let me quickly show you the template for incident. So in incident template, if you would have noticed or if you would have attended my previous sessions on templates, we do not have an option to pre-configure the approvals under the workflow tab. This option is available only under service catalogs. But right now, I am in a requirement that I need to send an approval notification to a line manager. And rather than me doing it each and every time, I would like to have this process automated. And how will I be able to do that? So as soon as I check this transition, I choose this transition, you can see that the status has gone to awaiting approvals. And I'm just going to refresh this page and you will see that the approvals tab has been automatically added with the necessary approvals who needs to take this decision. So from this, you can easily understand that even from request lifecycle, it's not just about mandating a field or setting a value to a field. You can also write custom triggers, custom scripts, and you can have certain out of the box actions automated. So I have written a custom function for add approvals. The custom function is called from the request custom function module, which we have under admin. So here is this request custom function here. And for add approvals, I have written a script in Deluge. So I'm just setting one level of approval and I need to get the necessary approval permission from here. So now that it has been triggered to this particular approver, let me quickly log in as the approver and take this particular decision. So again, I would like to remind you that you can either log into the portal and approve or reject this particular request, or you can make use of Zia, where and when an approval receives an email, he can reply to this mail with any keyword or any statement of his choice. And once the mail is sent, Zia will be able to predict the sentiment of the approver words, and Zia will be able to take actions on behalf of the approver. So Zia is another option for you to approve or reject the request via email. So now that I have approved this, I see that the status is approved. And next, as I can see in the workflow, it's allowing me to assign to the purchase technician. So even under status, if I do not see any other statuses like open, on hold, in progress. I only see two options. Either I can go back to awaiting approval, or I can have this assigned to a purchase technician. So this way, my technician is not allowed to transit if he should not transit to a previous stage. My technician is not allowed to simply put a request on hold if he should not put a request on hold without a valid reason. So I am giving the full authority to ServiceDesk Plus rather than to the technician. I am teaching the flow, the structure, and the process to ServiceDesk Plus and making sure that via ServiceDesk Plus, I have the same process implemented and forced upon all the technicians. So this way, the flow continues. Once I assign it to the purchase technician, I will have that the purchase technician checks whether the asset is in stock or out of stock and accordingly gets the asset provisioned. And during this transition assigned to purchase technician, if you see, I have made sure that I am mandating the technician field so that the technician field is captured. I'm doing a field update. So I'm making sure that the group that this particular ticket is going to be assigned to should be someone from the purchase team. So it looks very similar to the business rule UI page, which you have already seen, I guess. So this is exactly like that. I will also be able to make field updates from here, or I can write a custom function, a script, or I can write any external scripts like a Python script or a PowerShell script. So these are the level of actions that I can perform during my transition, and it is based on conditions as well. So either I can apply a condition or I can simply have no condition applied and have this particular field updated. Not just that, soon after I complete this transition and it moves to the next state where the status is assigned, I will have a notification triggered to the respective technician. So just editing this rule, it's assigned notification. And the notification action, if I edit, you can see that I have created my own customized template with the subject and the description. It says that the request has been assigned to so-and-so technician belonging to so-and-so department and to whom it needs to be notified. And if you're wondering who are the people who can be a part of this to field, it ranges from your organizational roles. So under admin ESM directory, or if you're not using enterprise service management, you can simply check this under admin tab. You have an option to map users against the organizational roles like your CEO, your CFO, your site-based roles, your department roles, etc. So those users will automatically be notified. Next is the group roles. So under admin tab, we discussed about group roles in the previous masterclass series, where I will be able to have technicians from multiple different support groups be a part of a single group role. So I have administrator here who belongs to major incidents team, Bob Adams who belongs to shift text team, and Sean Adams from hardware support team. So three different technicians from three different support groups collaborated together to form a group role, and this group role, two group roles that I have created is group in charge and shift technicians, and they both are displayed over here. Now, I can send this to a reporting manager of the affected user, or even more customized if I would like to have this notification triggered to the technician who owns the ticket, or to the members to the group in which this ticket is being assigned to, or any CC users present, or if this ticket is being shared between any other requesters or technicians. All these kind of scenarios may come up in your organization as well, and all you need to do is to just have this triggered. So even the approvers that you have configured, from where you got the necessary approvals, even they can be notified with the help of it. And finally, you can also choose individual users from the list. So this is the wide variety of lists that we provide to you, and your template can be completely customized with any variable that you would like to choose. All you have to do is to enter the $ and it presents to you all the variables. So this way, we will be able to perform a complete life cycle. So just to demonstrate that, since that I need to assign this to a group called purchase team. Right now the group is sysadmin. So what I do, I just click on assign to purchase technician, and I just click update. And as I can see, the group is automatically assigned to purchase team, and my notification would have also been triggered from here. So it will be triggering. Okay. So I hope this way you were able to understand how a life cycle works and how the process is being defined, starting from the creation till its closure. You're completely structuring the flow of a request. Now, request lifecycle is all about status that you have created in your ServiceDesk Plus application. So these are the list of statuses that I have. So I have statuses that comes under in progress and completed type. So a request lifecycle can be used to add transitions from one status to the other. The ones that you see in the white boxes are the status names, and the ones that you see in the green parallelograms are the transition names that happens from one status to another. So to just give you an example here, I'm just going to choose an available here. I've made use of all the statuses. So let me go and click on new, and I will just show you how this is working. So just giving test, and I'm just including associating any one incident template, and I just click on save. So the the default lifecycle is already available here. All I need to do is to customize my transition. So say, for example, I would like to have cancelled involved here. So I choose cancelled just by dragging and dropping it, and I will draw a workflow from open status to my cancelled status, and I will give the name of this transition something like cancel. And if I click on this transition, I can do things like either notifying a group role or performing a particular set of actions, field updates, etc. So all these can be done during these three events of the transition. So I hope request lifecycle is very clear to you, because we are going to move to the next topic, which is our change workflow. So far we have seen how to build a request lifecycle just in the GUI, the graphical user interface, how the transition can be set to move the request from one status to the other, how to send notifications, and how to mandate fields or update fields throughout the ticketing process. And finally, I also showed you a sample script on automatically setting the approvers. The limitation does not end here. You can do as many scripts as needed at any point in time. So next, we are going to go to change workflow. So for that, let me first demonstrate to you what are the available stages in a change. So while change, any change that you perform in your organization needs to be properly documented, validated, and then implemented. Any change that you perform in your organization must incur minimum risk and impact to the organization. I hope you all agree with what the 2 points that I have told you. And I'm quite sure that you might all be aware now that Microsoft has announced the end of support for Windows operating system, server operating system 2012 version, and also for Microsoft SQL 2012, right? So if any of you have not yet upgraded your MS SQL database and your MS SQL Windows operating system from 2012, please do consider to do it at the earliest. And since this announcement has reached and it's going to happen in the month of October, I just thought it is the right time for me to discuss or pick this topic as an example for me to demonstrate change management for you. So I'm going to say, for example, this Zilker would like to upgrade SQL version from 2012 to 2019. And MySQL in Zilker is hosting a lot of application databases. So any small fault that happens in the server, it will impact and it will corrupt the data of all the applications that have their databases installed in the server. So this is going to be a major change that I'm going to perform, and this is going to be a critical application. So what I do is I document all the relevant information and have them captured under my submission stage. In my submission stage is where I get the answers for my 4 WH questions. What change is to be performed? When this change needs to be performed? Why this change, or for what purpose should this particular change solve? And who are the stakeholders involved in this change activity? Next, in the planning stage is where I'm going to capture the impact and I'm going to write a detailed execution plan on how this change needs to be done. And it's equally important for me to capture a backward plan because I need to know how to come out of a change failed situation. And if there is any prerequisites that need to be checked, I will capture that under the checklist. And in my approval stage, I get the necessary approvals from the change advisory board members who are going to be directly or indirectly affected because of this change activity. In this example, Zilker has got, say, 10 to 15 applications, in-house applications, and these in-house applications were completely designed and developed by their in-house developers, and they also act as the application owners. In that case, we would like to get the recommendation from the application owners to know whether we can proceed with this change activity or not. And normally in the previous versions of ServiceDesk Plus, we directly go to the review stage where the reviewer reviews how this change activity was performed and closes the request. But now we have got 2 more stages added, which is the user acceptance testing stage and the release stage. So before I have my change released to a wider audience, I'm having this released to a smaller group of audience who check how this change is being performed, whether it is causing any further issues, whether the functionality is working as expected, whether it has solved any underlying issues, and so on. So once they give the green flag, they have it publicly released, and finally the change is good to get reviewed and closed. So these are the 2 new stages that has been added as a feature in the latest version of ServiceDesk Plus. The other feature that you can see for yourself is the revamp of this UI. So before you would have seen a totally different view, but now you can see that some changes have been brought, and this is the second change that I would like to get introduced to. The third change is that before we only had tasks that can be created under the implementation stage, correct? But now it's not just the implementation stage, but we also have options to add tasks and notes under the planning stage, the submission stage, etc. We had many users coming to us and stating that even for writing a rollout plan or a backout plan, we get technicians from different departments into this activity. So understanding that this use case is very valid, and with some other use cases that we have checked, analyzed, we brought in this feature as well. Okay, so now that you know what are the different stages available in change, let us quickly go ahead and see what further you can do to customize this change. So you might be having this question: Should I be always going through a sequential order? Should I be making use of all the 8 stages for each and every change that I do? Definitely not. Your change workflow is very similar to what we saw in request lifecycle, where we are going to make use of nodes. So these are the nodes that are displayed on the right. And then once you add the node to the workspace, you can add transitions between from one node to the other just by having these connectors. Let me quickly demonstrate to you how this change workflow has been configured. So as soon as I have a change submitted, I capture all the details under the submission stage. So submission is my first stage, and the stage itself is a node over here. This node with the stage name as submission, I have chosen 3 statuses. So totally I had 5, but I did not want these 2 statuses. I just want to manage with these 3 statuses: accepted, rejected, and requested. So with that, I have this node added. Next, if my submission stage is accepted, I would like it to go to the next stage, which is the planning stage. But I would not want it to go to the planning stage directly. I want it to do a validation before it goes to the planning stage. I want it to my system to analyze the risk. So I have risk, which is another inbuilt field of change, and I have introduced 3 values: high, low, and medium. If the risk is high, I would like it to go through the an approval. Approval. I would like it to trigger an approval and get the necessary approvals there. Again, we support organizational roles and change advisory board members, CAB groups, and the change roles. I mean, the users who are associated to the change. So all these people can be included for getting an approval. I can further customize my change subject and description over here. So this is something which I was able to do just by using my approval node, which I have it over here. So that now I get the necessary approval. Once it is approved, I can go to planning in progress stages. Whereas if my risk is medium, I would like to simply notify someone before I go to my planning stage. So for that, again, we have got customized notifications that you can create, and you can also notify it to the organizational role, the change roles, or the change advisory board members, or requester, etc. It's very similar to what you saw under change custom triggers. So the next is, if the risk is low, I do not want any approvals to be triggered or a notification to be sent. I can directly go on to the planning stage. So based on my risk value, I'm deciding what to do before I transit from my submission stage to the planning stage. Now, from the planning stage, once all the details are captured, I'm going to go to the approval stage, where again, I'm going to perform some checks. And for this, I have made use of my condition node. So yes, condition is another node which has 2 outlets. One is yes and the other one is no. So what is the condition that I'm validating here? I'm making sure that my backout plan, my rollout, and my checklist is not empty. So if it is not empty, so say yes, not empty, then I can go to the approval stage. Or if it is empty, then I will be retreating back to the planning stage, and I will be setting it to the status requested for more information, so that I get all the details captured before I move to the approval stage. Now that I'm into my approval stage, here is where I'm going to trigger different levels of approvals to my CAB members, right? But again, here I can determine how many levels of approvers will I need to assign, or will I need to trigger, and on what basis. For that, I have set up in such a way that I'm checking the category of the change request. If my category, I have got 3 different categories. It's the compliance and security related changes, any change that is performed for security related threats to be kept away, the data management related changes. So I demonstrated to you about a SQL server, right? About upgrading my SQL server. Since my SQL server is going to hold all the data of all the applications, it's only right for me to choose data management as the category for my SQL server change, which I just told you a while ago. Next, application. If I'm going to perform an application upgrade or just introduce a small patch to the application, then I will have it chosen as application. And Based on the category value I've chosen, I have got levels of approvals configured here. So for compliance and security, I will get first level approvals from my server operations team, then from my security and legal advisors team, and third from my compliance team. When it comes to my data management, I would like to get it from the application owners and from the database team. And when it comes to my application, I simply would like to get the approval on, the recommendation from the application owners team. And then I proceed to the implementation stage, then to the review stage, and finally to the close stage. Again, I've used notes where I'm validating if my review description is being captured. If yes, I send out a notification to my respective people like the change manager or the CIO. And after I notify, I also go to the close stage where I finally do a field update. Yes, this is another note. It's field update where I can automatically set values to the field when I'm proceeding from one status to another status transition. So I'm setting the closure code as closed completed. So we have taken a list check of all these nodes. We have made use of all the 6 stages. So all the nodes have been used. We used conditions node, then a switch node where multiple condition based actions like category and risk is being involved, multiple condition based actions, notification and approvals, and finally a field update. So all you need to do is simply drag and drop them into the workspace, give the field a name, any new field. So I'm choosing a field something like description and say test. And I just save it and I choose this, and then I can just draw the workflow from here. So this way I will be able to make my own change workflows completely customized. And once this change workflow is associated to a change template, so this is where we can associate it. Go to the change template. And here I can say which workflow it needs to follow. So whenever I choose this particular template for change creation, I can see that it will automatically pick up this workflow. So I hope now you're also aware about how change workflow works and what are the benefits of it. In case, just to show you an additional example, for emergency changes, the technicians will not have time to go through all the stages like the planning stage or the approval stage. They would like to immediately start implement it. So I have created another workflow for emergency change where I get all the information under my submission stage, and then I go to the implementation, then from there to review and close this change. So even if you would like to skip stages in between, that is very well possible with change workflows. So far, we have seen request lifecycle and change workflows. In change workflow, we saw how using the graphical user interface, you can build the workflow and how you can perform, how you can move from one stages or one status to another through this guided workflow. And in between, how you can send approvals, you can trigger notifications, performing field updates, and do condition-based actions, even multiple condition-based actions using your switch node. Now, just like change, we have got a release module. So I just saw during the polling that one person has tried to configure the release workflow. So what is the difference between a change and a release, and when to go for a release? So if you would like to track each and every stage of the change extensively, if you would like to document each and everything, then you can have your release module used. A best example is the software development lifecycle. So when I'm going to add a new feature to a software, I cannot simply add it to a software and have it released. I will have to go through an extensive tracking process. So the basic difference is your change comes with an 8-stage design, whereas your release comes with a 9-stage design. So the submission and planning stage is just as we discussed in the change module. Then we go ahead and develop this particular feature or the functionality, and then we test this developed feature and functionality to see if it works as expected. And once the testing is successfully complete, we publish it to a user acceptance testing environment where a small group of audience is allowed to test this functionality and see how it works whether it has brought any considerable difference than how the product was the last time, whether it has solved any existing challenges, whether it's bringing out any new bugs in the application, and whether the users will be able to quickly adapt to it. Next, once we get a green flag from the user acceptance environment, we go to the deployment stage where it is released. And I would say training is very important because the success of a change or a release does not lie on how it is being configured, but it lies on how the users are able to well adapt to the situation. Say you have a user who has been using an application for 5 to 10 years, and all of a sudden on a Monday morning, he sees that there is a complete change in the UI look. How would you think he would feel? Definitely not a good way to start with, right? So I would recommend that 3 months from the date of release, I mean before the date of release, you can give a heads up as what change is going to come to this particular software or application. 2 months before the date of release, you could say why this particular change is being brought and what further benefits that they can expect out of it. 1 month before the release, we can give tutorials, knowledge bases, videos, articles, etc., and help the users train on how to use this new feature that is going to get released. So the release workflow is going to be entirely the same as we saw under change workflow. The only difference is the number of stages involved. So you can have those stages included, and all these nodes are going to be very similar to what you have already seen in your change workflow. So next, we are going to discuss about something that is now going to be user perspective. So normally what happens in any organization is that even for the smallest of requirement or even for minute details, we have users approaching the technicians. It could be via calls, via chats, and they will try to get the issue sorted. So the technicians can not only spend their daily time on just managing your the other tickets, but they will also have to attend to the users frequently. No matter how much our knowledge articles that we provide, if you see that if you when you log in into a user module, you can see the announcements that has been already provided. You can take a look at the solutions that has been provided. But irrespective of all this, the user still straight away goes to creating a request and then trying to get in touch with a technician. So understanding all these challenges, we have developed a feature where Zia, an artificial intelligence assistance bot present inside ServiceDesk Plus, will help a user to try completing an issue or try fixing an issue or help raising a new request or get information about the pending tickets that have been already created without having to interact with the technicians. So let me just show you an example of this. If you look at the bottom right corner of the screen, you have an option, Ask Zia. Now I'm just going to get this page where it's asking me, how can Zia help me? So I can either raise a request, I can ask for a resource. If you're thinking, what is this resource? It actually refers to service catalog. So I can choose the desired service category, service catalog, and then I can have a new service created. Or I can go ahead and ask for more assistance. So let us look this in detail. Now, I'm going to ask or need for more assistance here. So I'm available, I'm provided with a list of topics where I can view existing solutions or any existing announcement. If there is any pending approvals in my name or the request that I have raised. And there is an option here called as execute an operation. And if I do that, I see that I have an option to add a note. So let me quickly go ahead and add a note. So right now I have, say, test 38. I have a ticket number 38 and I would like to add a note for it. So click add notes operation, add a note, entering the request ID that is 38. And this ticket is no longer managed, or I'm just giving a random note. I enter. So notes has been added. So let me go ahead and refresh to see if the note has been added. So yes, the note is added. So similarly, you can perform as many operations as required. So I can just click on yes, continue, and raise a request from here. So if you're wondering how this workflow helps, even Zia comes with its own workflow now. So before explaining you the workflow, let me introduce you to the options, actions, and buttons. Okay, so anything that says, how can I help you? That's a particular action. So I can have that action created over here, and then I can also have buttons enabled along with it. So going to Zia workflow. So this is an options menu, which is how I can help you. And in this particular menu, I've got 3 buttons: raise a ticket, or ask for a resource, or need more assistance. I can add more number of buttons. And if you're wondering from where these buttons are coming from, it's available just under your admin tab again. Just go to Zia and you have Zia actions and Zia buttons. So I have these buttons enabled, and then this button will be available in the workflow. Next, if I'm choosing something like raise a request, it says that it needs to perform an action where it is going to recommend us a solution. So recommending a solution while raising a request. So Zia itself is trying to find out if there is any suitable solution, and it will present itself to the user. And say the solution is not satisfactory, then the user enters additional request details and it will try to further create a ticket. Second, if it is asking for a service catalog, a new request, then we give an option to select a service catalog, raise a service template from here, and then enter the requirements. If they are going to ask for additional instance, like checking the pending approvals, we show modules like whether you need to check approvals for request and change, and from here we give other actions. So there are action modules, and then there are user input. So based on the user input, the next action will be proceeded. So until now, the Zia buttons that we already have here is something which is already coming along with the application. You can either make use of these buttons, or you can make use of the bot commands. So simply give a /assign request, and it will automatically assign the technician to the request if you're from a technician login. And here are the list of actions that also can be enabled, and you can make use of it. So we would like to hear more from you as what kind of actions would you like to automate using Zia? Because right now, all these are predefined, which means they come along with the feature. And to make it more customizable, or to add more buttons or more actions, we would like to hear more use cases and scenarios from you, so that we can constantly improve on getting our Zia workflow expanded. So please do try this out and let us know. Let us know your feedback. Also give us more use cases so that it will be helpful. So we saw how we can configure option menu and provide more buttons. And using these menu and buttons, how we'll be able to perform some default and customized actions using the Zia workflow. So please do try this out. This is already available. And if you have any questions, please do let us know. So a quick recap. We have seen how to build life cycles, how to build change workflows and release workflows, and finally, how Zia is also coming up with a workflow. So initially when Zia was introduced, it was only introduced to predict the sentiment of the approver and approve or reject a request on behalf of the approver. But after that, Zia has expanded exponentially, and it's going to happen even more. And this is what we have discussed on our session today. And I would really recommend that you go back and start building your visual life cycles and workflows, and get back to us. So you can write to us at hello@servicedeskplus.com or haripriya@manageengine.com about your feedback and whatever use cases that you have come across. What would you like to vision with these workflow builders? So all this information is available in our website over here. The support.html is where you can get your admin guide, your release notes, the product videos, and the community section. So thank you all for your time today. So we'll meet in the next session, and that's going to happen the next month. So stay tuned for the next session that's going to come up. Thank you again for your time.